Hello and welcome to StartSelect, the video game show from GameSpot UK. I'm Guy Cocker.
And I'm Mark Walton. Coming up on this week's Gaming Jamboree.
Mark and I will be looking over the week's biggest news, including PS3 firmware updates, Call of Duty Black Ops cast lists, and Elspa's name change.
We take a look at upcoming download-only God Sim From Dust.
We meet the developers of Formula 1 2010 ahead of the game's imminent launch.
We preview Enslaved, the latest offering from Cambridge-based developer Ninja Theory.
We run down all the week's new releases.
And we announce the winners of our Gamescom Swag Bag competition and give away tickets to an upcoming GameSpot UK BAFTA event with the developer of Enslaved.
Before we get to all that though, it's time to take a look at the juiciest stories from this week's gaming news. First up, the UK trade body ELSPA has rebranded itself to the UK Interactive Entertainment Association. The UKIE is a specific departure from the organisation's previous incarnation, which was specifically aimed at representing the interests of the mostly multinational publishing houses UK arms. Described as a UK champion for the entire video games industry and interactive entertainment industry, the UKIE wants to help develop the games industry into a leading industry within the UK's creative sector. Now, Mark, you saw this news story today.
I did.
What did you think? ELSPA's been a prominent part of the UK games industry for a long time now. It's changing its name. For the better?
Well, yeah, for the better. I mean, there's going to be a lot of crossover between them and Tiger, who have obviously been really heavy on the government stuff, lobbying things, and I think that's what they're trying to get involved with now.
Yeah, so Tiger did a great job last year lobbying the government to offer tax breaks for developers.
Yeah.
Sadly, the government just didn't decide to go with it, but it seems as though the UKIE wants to now get a piece of that action, also start representing developers.
Yeah.
It also wants to start pushing a more positive message of video gaming to the mainstream. It's saying that it wants to ensure gamers are not ghettoized, whatever that means.
Love that word.
And also wants to change the image of gamers from weird, socially inept, pizza-guzzling, coke-drinking men and boys who are not interested in hygiene but in the content of their software. Which that's an image still?
It's pretty much me.
I like pizza,
Yeah,
definitely.
I like pizza, I like Coke. This sounds good.
They also want to push out to the fact that UK games developers are, in need of talent, but that talent needs to be trained in the sciences, in maths, in traditional core subjects. It's going to be pushing that out. You can find out more about that news story anyway on the site. Alex has done a great piece talking to Tiger as well and their response to this. You've picked out a new cast list. For Black Ops.
So Gary Oldman is back in Call of Duty. He's returning in the role of Victor Reznov from Treyarch's previous entry, World at War. He's also worked on the Medal of Honor Allied Assault in 2003, and since then he has lent his voice to True Crime, Streets of LA, and 3 separate Spyro the Dragon games as Ignitus.
One is never enough when you're a Spyro character.
You've got to be in 3 Spyros. If you haven't done 3 Spyros, you're just not pro. Ed Harris is also on board. He is the guy from The Truman Show. He was the studio producer, and he was also the hard-hitting general from The Rock.
And of course Jackson Pollock as well.
Yes, of course.
No one could forget that.
And he's voicing the CIA operative Jason Hudson, who's one of the game's main characters.
Yeah, so they've got more talent involved.
Yep.
Call of Duty always has traditionally had actually, Hollywood talent.
Yeah.
I know 50 Cent was in the last one. But they've also got someone famous to do treatment of the script as well.
Yeah, that's right. So David S. Goyer, who also wrote the scripts for the critically acclaimed Batman reboot, Batman Begins, and the story for its sequel, The Dark Knight, is penning stuff, or is he just supervising?
He's supervising the in-house guys over at Treyarch. So yeah, he's giving it a once-over, which is good, which is promising, I think, for
some Hollywood A-list right there. Ian.
Yeah. Well, it's as big as a Hollywood movie, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The full game is out on November the 9th. You can find out more about it on the site. The final news story that I've picked up on is Sony issuing a PlayStation 3 security firmware update, which doesn't sound that exciting, but it is if you've been following the whole legal nightmare that they've been facing over the last couple of weeks. The 3.42 update was released this week and addresses, according to Sony's European blog, a security vulnerability, which we believe is to close the loophole that PS Jailbreak has introduced. A couple of weeks ago, earlier in August, a group known as PS Jailbreak actually came up with an exploit for the PlayStation 3, started selling it, a device to activate it into the grey market, and the code has since made it online and is available to people to use on their phones. Even a Texas Instrument calculator can hack into the PlayStation 3 now.
Amazing.
The update, we think, closes that loop, yes, obviously these devices are illegal. The Australian High Court has banned sale of these devices. Anyone that's bought them in Australia has to now send them through to Sony, which is a bit of a big.
I wonder how that's going to work.
It's big. They close it down. They shut it down, so you can't get a hold of these. Anyway, that's it for this week's news. Be sure to check out more of these stories and many more. Just head over to gamespot.com/news. And remember, you can gain access to the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood PlayStation 3 beta by forming your own Brotherhood over at GameSpot UK. Just head over to the link below to enter.
Time now to take a look at a game that was met with a very positive response when it was shown at Gamescom last month, From Dust.
Hey everyone, Giancarlo Veronini here. I'm at Gamescom 2010. I'm joined by Guillaume Brunier, and we're here to talk about From Dust, brand new game from Ubisoft. And the best way, we just saw the demo, and the best way that I can describe this game is that it's a little bit of a god game, a little bit of a venture game, a little bit of everything in there, but how would you describe it?
We describe it as a god game in the end. That's a kind of god game, but I'd say we'd like to offer a modern take on the god game genre. That's what we want to do. So basically what you have to do is you've got a tribe that you need to protect from catastrophes happening in the environment, and you need to help them in their quests to find eventually a safe place for them to live.
And from what we saw in the demo, there's a lot of interaction with the environment. There's a lot of things that you can do. Can you describe a little bit about what players will be able to do in this game?
Well, basically, you can interact, as you said, with everything that you see. If I can see it, I can interact with it. For example, I can grab water and transport it around the map and release it somewhere else. I can grab lava, and if I release it on vegetation, it will catch fire. We've got what we like to use. I mean, it's kind of a butterfly effect. Like what I do here, because of the world being so naturally rendered, it will have an effect on the other side of the map. So I need to take care of what's happening and maybe try to anticipate the butterfly effect. And that's part of the fun of the game.
And something that we saw, I mean, you can really sort of sculpt this world. You can take vegetation from different parts. You can move lava. You can move water. What's the ultimate goal in terms of being able to do these things? Like, what are you trying to achieve by doing these things?
Well, the more you progress through the game, the more powers you have and the more interaction with the world you get. For example, at the beginning of the game, maybe you can transport this amount of lava or this amount of water, and because you progress through the game and you get more villages, and in return they give you more powers. So maybe at the end of the game you can take all the water off the map at one time. So that's quite cool. Transform a fertile land into a desert like this.
That sounds really cool. Actually, something else that we saw was the natural disasters. How do these come into play during the game, and I mean, how often do they occur? Is it sort of the main, bad guy in the game?
That's cool that you say this, because yes, actually the bad guys are the events, but they're also at the same time the good guys. Because of course in the demo we showed there's a tsunami coming to your village. So if you don't do something to help them, they will die, and then you will die because you're their spirit. So if they are not there, you're not there anymore. So in the demo, the tsunami is a bad guy, but we really want the player to feel that there is no such thing as bad guys and good guys as far as nature is concerned. It's just nature. So for example, let's say I have the same kind of map, and the tsunami is coming, and on the other side of the island there's a huge bushfire, and the vegetation is catching fire and everything, and you see animals running for their lives. Well, the tsunami hitting the shores will extinguish this fire. So is it a good guy? Is it a bad guy? We don't know.
Well, it certainly looks exciting. I think the world's kind of been waiting for the next really great sort of God game. What are we looking at in terms of release dates and platforms?
So we are aiming for March 2011, and the platforms are Xbox Live Arcade, PlayStation Network, and PC via Steam or something like this.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for your time.
Formula 1 2010 is the first time Codemasters has taken a crack at the F1 whip on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. We met up with them to find out what to expect when the game launches later in the month.
My name's Stephen Hood. I'm the Chief Game Designer on Formula 1 2010.
I'm Paul Gio. I'm the Senior Producer on F1 2010. we're here at Gamescom showing the public the latest code.
Surprisingly, for a licensed game, there's certain things that people come to expect from Formula 1 titles. You're going to have all the tracks, you're going to have the drivers and the cars and that kind of stuff. But Codemasters is quite rightly saying have a completely different presentation style. They're far more involved in actually being in the game world rather than just interacting with some menus and going to the next event. It ended up being quite an easy merging of styles, I think, because, like I say, nowadays Formula 1's again, I think, is on a massive rise. It's a really great season. There's loads of new teams involved, some drivers, some classic drivers come back. Schumacher's back. There's this world that goes on around it now. It's a perfect fit for us. We're always watching the 2010 season, going, well, I don't think we could have launched in a better year. Really, it's really come together for us.
I think because we had such a clear game vision as well. Be the driver, live the life. It allowed us to easily filter down the game features, that immediately eliminated TV commentary, the TV style OSD. We wanted you to experience your own race, your own team's objectives, the race engineer, something that makes you feel like the superstar rather than sort of a car as a part of the TV show. So I think it was a very clear design decision.
We had this opportunity where we said, we've got the basics up and running, we can do the damage and get the cars on the track, we know we're going to have quality graphics. What else do we want to do to Formula 1? How are we going to relaunch it? So our biggest challenge was actually just trying to channel it down into a game that you could make in just over 2 years. And we've absolutely pushed it. As Paul was saying, on the flight over here, we were thinking, right, the game's pretty much done now. The build that we're taking to Gamescom will be the one that ships. But it isn't. And I think that the development team go crazy because we're always saying, we can just get a bit more in. You can just put a few more features in. It really made a difference for us because you've got to launch with a bang. And I think this title will really set the scene for the future project updates. Weather's such a huge thing in a season, an F1 season. There's some tracks that are renowned for being really unpredictable, but I think players will get used to it as they go through career. We've modelled it based on the proper weather patterns for each of the locations. So when you're in Bahrain, you're not going to see any rain. You can pretty much expect what you're going to be getting at that circuit. But the better players will start to recognise the changes in patterns. So you'll be able to see the clouds changing. Maybe there's a few spots of rain. You might hear from your race engineer giving you some instructions. Maybe an early call that we could pit now and get ahead of the expected rush later on. Mixes that race up, and I wish more racing games would do the weather system. So hopefully this will give them that G up, but we're already ahead of them now.
Yeah, they're two unique environments as well. Singapore is a night race and Abu Dhabi is like a twilight race, so they give you a totally different feel as well. And then there's the obvious differentiation between street tracks and circuit tracks, which really give a totally different feel in the handling of an F1 car. Driving around Monaco is actually a scary experience in the game, so don't know what it must be like in real life.
We're trying to build the world that you see on TV. So, for example, on races these days, it's like an hour and a half build-up before races. They're walking around in a paddock lane, they're interviewing the drivers, you see some of the celebrities, you see the hospitality buildings, the trucks, or maybe they get to go into the garage. When you're a nobody, there's only a few people hanging around willing to talk to you. But as you become maybe championship contender, you move to a high-profile team, then they're just hanging around the paddock lane all the time. They always want your opinion. How did qualifying go? How was the race? Do you think you'll be in the running for the championship this year? So we're just trying to make it more authentic, just change things around in Formula 1.
We're not looking at immediate DLC. We've got some ideas on some updates if they're needed. But really, the design team have focused on F1 2011. And it's not been. It's sort of formed in the background from when you're getting your features in there, and so much stuff was implemented in this game and maybe didn't quite make the cut this time round in terms of it was left on paper. Some things are fairly well prototyped and advanced through, but we just didn't take the risk to stuck them in at the last stage. So it's full steam ahead on the next one once this one's on the shelves. F1 2010 is available on the 24th of September, and it's going to be on PS3, Xbox 360 and PC.
Heavenly Sword developers Ninja Theory gave us a demo of the opening sequence of their new title Enslaved, and very nice it's looking too. Here's our preview.
You have been assessed, and any injuries sustained during your capture have been designated as non-life-threatening.
Your journey through Enslaved begins rather ominously as you're set free from a steampunk-like pod by a mysterious stranger known as Trip. It's not clear why you're there, or indeed why the stranger has helped you, but like most prisoners suddenly freed from incarceration, you know you need to escape. The dramatic music, procession of explosions and ticking clock self-destruct sequence have all the hallmarks of the intro to an action movie, except of course that you're in control. Though the introduction is heavily scripted, there's still plenty for you to do as you leap across falling platforms, avoid exploding pipework and chase after the stranger who saved you. However, before you're allowed to get too comfortable with the corridor chasing, you're thrust out of an exploding door into the open air, hanging on for dear life.
Slaves report to escape pods. Slaves rated B and below await further command.
Yep, that's right, it's time to find some escape pods and get off this floating death trap. Of course, you have to work out how to get there, leaping across bits of rusty pipework and clambering up walls. And then there's the enemies.
7 pods remaining.
After more platforming, you suit up with your weapons and take on some mechs. This acts as a battle tutorial, teaching you the basic controls and how your shield works. You're armed with a light staff, which you can use to beat the living hell out of mechs. The hand-to-hand combat feels fluid, with the motion-captured actions of Andy Serkis lending a human feel to lead character Monkey. He also has quite the mean streak, and some of his finishing animations are seriously brutal.
7 launched.
After your less than helpful encounter with the stranger, you have to find another way across to the escape pods. This time you have to make your way across the outside of the craft, leaping from wing to wing. You have more mechs to contend with, though they're little match for your staff weapon. After more leaping, you crash into a familiar landmark, which cues up yet more dramatic music for a final sprint to the escape pod. As the craft begins its descent, post-apocalyptic New York comes into view, with its lush green vegetation and towering skyscrapers. After waking up from the crash, you discover that you've been fitted with a slave headband, and you're not exactly pleased about it. Thanks to Tripp's slave headband hackery, Monkey has no choice but to help. But at least the headband gives you a convenient heads-up display containing a health bar, shield, and information on Tripp's status. Some more light platforming and mech destruction follows, after which you come up with a plan of action to head to the crash site and pick up your motorcycle. As you wander out into the environment, you get a real taste of the world that developer Ninja Theory has created. Lush green landscapes are peppered with moss-covered skyscrapers and hints toward past events. Later, you learn of Tripp's ability to create decoys, which you can use to distract enemies and solve simple puzzles. Using Tripp's distraction, you can flank enemies and catch them off guard, making it easier to lay waste to them with your staff. As you'll make your way through the game, Monkey's initially frosty reception to Tripp begins to wane, and he begins to care for her. The first time this happens, she asks you to catch a dragonfly, a mechanical bug that she later hacks to scout out enemy locations. She can also use it to identify enemy weaknesses, which makes it easier for you to take down enemies or steal weapons from them. At certain points, you come across strange floating masks, which generate flashbacks featuring none other than Andy Serkis himself. These will play a pivotal part in the story, and we were promised a big twist at some point later in the game. Throughout your journey, you often encounter larger mechs, which you have to fight as a boss battle or special sequence. One of the larger ones is the dog mech, a four-legged monster that scares the living daylights out of Tripp when she first sees it. To escape from it, you have to pick up Tripp and quickly run away, while the mech destroys everything in its path. Fortunately, it's not exactly the smartest mech out there, and it's easy to escape by simply walking into areas it can't reach. One other trick up your sleeve is the Cloud. It's an electrical platform that allows you to float above water and perform longer jumps. However, it only works in certain sections of the game, so you can't travel around on it all the time. With talent from the likes of 28 Days Later writer Alex Garland and Lord of the Rings actor Andy Serkis, it's no wonder Namco Bandai's Enslaved has the hallmarks of a Hollywood action film. The chase sequences, huge explosions, and voice acting are all of a high quality, and our time in the preview was an entertaining journey through the post-apocalyptic New York City. Enslaved is due out on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 on October 8th. Look out for a full review on GameSpot soon.
Time now on StartSelect for the week's big new releases. These are the games hitting store shelves and virtual shelves this week.
First up is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep on the PSP. We gave this game a 7.5 and it tells the story of 3 new characters, all of whom are Keyblade apprentices. You can replay the game 3 different times if you so desire.
Next up is Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 and DS. Swing your way into action and help restore reality with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man across 4 different dimensions.
Ruse is out on PC, PS3 and Xbox 360. Ruse is a one-of-a-kind real-time strategy game that allows players to bluff their enemies to lead their nation to victory.
Next up is another Ubisoft title. It's Tom Clancy's Hawks 2 on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Tom Clancy's Hawks 2 plunges fans into an explosive environment where they can become elite aerial soldiers in control of the world's most technologically advanced aircraft.
And finally, 99 Nights 2 is out on Xbox 360. We gave this game a 3.5, so take that under advisement.
Competition time now on StartSelect. Now, last time we offered you the chance to win a massive collection of gaming swag from the circus that was Gamescom 2010. We were still compiling the swag at the time of recording, but we've now got the full set here, which is ready to be couriered off to our lucky winner. Now, there's a lot of
there's tons of stuff
swag,
in here.
And it's a huge box actually. There's T-shirts,
Paradox mints,
Star Wars Old Republic bag. Do you collect any of this?
I got some of this. Yeah. I got this T-shirt. This is a Spec Ops: The Line T-shirt.
Excellent.
Good.
Paradox T-shirt. Lots of T-shirts.
There's even some games in here. You've got East India Company Collection as well.
I like this. This is I was at the Limbo session. They were talking about designing the puzzles in Limbo, which it was a good job that I actually finished the game at that point because they gave away all the sort of ways to pass them. And it's a limited edition art print, which is actually really nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, lots of stuff in here. 2K stuff in here.
Press badges.
Mafia 2 stickers. Lots of access to different betas and different online games as well. And our winner is
Kings for No, who says, "Hi GameSpot crew, great start select from Gamescom, particularly the plats on Mark. He does have a forehead." Indeed, I do have a large forehead. Anyway, on with the competition answer. According to the font of all knowledge, aka Wikipedia, the Lord Mayor of Cologne is Jürgen Reuters. Cheerio, Kings.
Yeah, congratulations, Kings. We will get this over to you. Hopefully you're going to be in to accept it from a courier. We'll get it over to you shortly. This time, courtesy of the fine people over at BAFTA and Namco Bandai, we've got 5 tickets to give away to an upcoming exclusive Q&A with Ninja Theory. The game that they're going to be talking about is Enslaved, which you've seen already, but this event is taking place on September the 27th and will offer you the chance to hear Ninja Theory's Chief Ninja talk about the game, as well as have a chance to play the game and win some very cool money can't buy prizes. The event is also being held in conjunction with GameSpot UK, so I will be chairing the Q&A, and myself and the rest of the team will be around afterwards to look at and maybe even touch.
Wow.
That's an offer you can't
That's a
refuse.
money back, can't buy prize right there. Tickets for the event are on sale now, but to win one, all you have to do is answer this question. Who is the famous writer who has penned the script to the game? If you think you know the answer, send it to competitions@gamespot.co.uk and we'll draw the winners on Friday, the 17th of September.
All right, that's it from Mark and I, but we'll be bringing you another edition of Start Select very shortly. Remember, you can follow GameSpot UK's Twitter feed to catch all of our tweets as they happen, and let us know what you think of the show and GameSpot UK in general by posting on our Facebook wall. Just head over to facebook.com/GameSpot UK. We'll see you all next time.